Hello, my name is Irina Ryshkova and I'm your nonprofit auditor. Welcome to the next NAP. NAP stands for Nonprofit Auditor Point, and I'm your nonprofit auditor. We're a small CPA firm located in downtown Oakland, and we serve nonprofit community by providing audit and review financial services to nonprofit organizations. I design NAPs to give back to the nonprofit community and educate on some topics related to accounting, auditing, and finance. Hopefully, you will find them useful. These videos are not authoritative, they just simply my knowledge and experience that I'm sharing with nonprofit community. And today I would like to talk about auditor independence. There is a lot of misconception and misunderstanding what auditor independence mean. Auditor cannot be not independent. That's requirement that every auditor have to follow. As soon as auditor becomes not independent, the auditor cannot perform the audit, financial audit. For a nonprofit, it's important to understand what does it mean when the auditor is independent. Serving small nonprofit organizations, very often we hear that nonprofit looking for the auditor who can educate them and help them to perform year-end closing procedures. It's a very difficult in line that auditor, if the auditor gonna audit this nonprofit, most likely auditor would not be an independent. It will not be able to perform the audit. The auditor cannot audit their own work. It means that the auditor cannot engage in the process of closing book for the organization. Closing books meaning booking the accrual, adjusting journal entries, reconciling items that would not be considered independent if the auditor performs such tasks. Sometimes the standards will even indicate if there's a lot of adjustments that auditor performed during the audit that relates to year-end process, we auditors have to evaluate if the organization really understand their books or they purely relied on auditor just to book every adjustment and make their books correct at the end of the year. So as an auditor, we require to document key that each organization without exceptions have to have in order for us auditors to be independent. SKI stands for skills, knowledge, and experience, which have to be inside the organization. There has to be individuals inside organization that has sufficient skills, knowledge, and experience in overseeing and analyzing and understanding the work of the auditor. Under no circumstances the organization can just rely and believe the auditor and saying, you the auditor, you know better, we believe we're gonna record your adjustment. Every adjusting entry that the auditor identified needs to be fully understood and taking full responsibility for that entry by client. At the end of the day, it's not auditor report, it's report issued by the organization, but audited by auditor. Sometimes it gets very confusing because auditor helps small nonprofits to draft audit report. Standards actually specifically identify that drafting the audit report is considered non-audit consulting services. And the auditor is only allowed to do that if the organization has internal, again, skills, which is skills, knowledge, and experience to review the report and understand it completely and take full responsibility for the report. So it's very critical to understand it's not the auditor report, it's the organization report, where the auditor just helped to compile the report together. In addition, we see sometimes even in RFP, request for proposal, nonprofits will say that they're looking for the auditor who also can do some managerial tasks and be responsible for implementing new procedures within the organization, educating staff on accounting guidance, educate them on the new standards, and make sure that the organization properly uses them. Again, most likely such deep involvement in day-to-day operations of the organization and responsibility of the auditor to be responsible for the proper implementation will impair the auditor independence. In this case, the auditor will become internal consultant and will not be able to be an auditor. Each auditor has to analyze every single activity that we as an auditor perform for the organization outside audit and assess if there are any significant risks that might impair our independence. And if those risks exist, we need to see if there is sufficient barriers we can identify that actually mitigate our exposure and actually makes us independent. As auditors, we can definitely provide overall guidance. We can explain the standard, but we should not be the ones who recording debits and credits for the organization that are responsible for educating staff on the new standards and making sure that they properly implement it. Most likely that would not be in accordance with the independent standard. Therefore, it is very important not only for the auditors to understand the independent standard, but also for the nonprofits and the board to understand limitations of auditors, what they can and cannot do. Sometimes board can ask auditor to be involved in some decisions such as where to invest endowment fund, how to set up endowment fund, or where a board needs to designate or invest their designated money, or how they need to strategize their internal policy and procedures. All of these tasks can impose significant threats to the independence of auditor. And as a rule of thumb, it's a good idea to stay away from tasks that go beyond the audit if the audit firm is actually if your client is if you audit your client, it's a good idea do not perform any consulting services. Again, overall consulting, just overall guidance, such as sending and explaining some standards, that new standard was issued, and explaining it to your nonprofit, just in overall terms, absolutely would be allowable. Even help to understand some grant agreements, contracts, just overall understanding what is the meaning, what is the revenue recognition for such grant would be. Guide the nonprofit overall what software is available the nonprofit can use. Help nonprofit to just overall see what the policy and procedures could be around each specific area. Those are allowable, but they need to be in general terms, and at any time auditor can be engaged in management decisions, making decisions for the organization, and be in a management position. As soon as we auditor makes those decisions, we no longer independent and cannot perform the audit. Therefore, it's very important for auditor to understand the boundaries in order to be independent, and for the organization and the board to understand what auditor can and cannot do. Tax filing, it's a very common service that nonprofit can use the auditor to prepare, and a lot of auditors do also file tax returns for nonprofits. That's allowable, again, as long as the organization has internal skills, knowledge, and experience to assess accuracy of the Form 990. Therefore, again, very critical for nonprofits not just believe or fully rely to the auditor, but to learn and understand and use the auditor as a guide to help them understand specifics of the audit report or Form 990. But the auditor, in order to be critically independent, they cannot be involved in any other consulting or preparation services for the financial statements that auditor is issuing independent opinion. Thank you so much. Hopefully it was useful. Thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to see you next time. Have a good day.